Since ChatGPT appeared last fall and quickly made its way to 100 million users, AI announcement after AI announcement has been shared by tech companies large and small. Not a day goes by when I don't notice a new AI button of some description turn up in an app where it wasn't expected, while we continue to wait for the broader toolsets that will probably have more long-term impact, like Microsoft 365 Copilot. And in the background through this time has been the dull drumbeat of warnings, concerns and predictions of calamities in differing scales right the way up to some future AI apocalypse. On the stupid but entirely easy to understand level was the case of Stephen Schwartz, a lawyer who decided to use ChatGPT to help him write a filing for a case where he was representing a man who was suing an airline. ChatGPT wrote a great document that unfortunately was filled with references to cases that had never happened. At the much more horrifying end of the scale was the case of Colonel Tucker Hamilton, the chief at AI Test and Operations for the US Air Force. While presenting to a conference hosted by the Royal Aeronautical Society, he described a test of an AI-enabled drone that, after being stopped from destroying a surface-to-air missile site by its human operator, opted to destroy its control tower so it could no longer be communicated with. This is the AI equivalent of sticking your fingers in your ears and shouting, "Nah, nah, 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 I can't hear you." The US Air Force later clarified that this was not actually something that happened, and Colonel Hamilton was instead referring to a thought experiment. There are real reasons to be concerned about AI. In the long term, we don't know the impact it may have and whether an off-the-rails AI tool could do real-world harm. However, without entirely neglecting the possibility of some far-off future AI catastrophe, I think there is a much more near-term and practical problem we should all be focused on, and that's the impending AI avalanche. If you look at a solution like Microsoft 365 Copilot, we should all be looking forward to amazing upsides in a lot of the mundane work processes we suffer through today. Think of a feature like helping you summarize complex email threads while you're on a mobile device, so you can easily catch up and contribute to the conversation. This generative capability is potentially amazing and a game changer for those too busy to ever catch up, who are suffering stress and imbalance as a result. However, a problem that no one seems to be focusing on is that while these tools may be great at helping us deal with an overload of information that has mostly, to this point, been created by other humans, if we 10x our ability to create content while at the same time 10xing our ability to consume it, we just end up in exactly the same place. But that's not really the problem. The average worker isn't necessarily suddenly going to start sending 10 times as many emails because they have Microsoft 365 Copilot. The business need will still be the business need, and the amount of communication required to run a project or sell a product will largely remain the same. There are lots of other areas of business where there is a barrier to entry involved in the effort that's required to create the associated content. And in lots of cases, one could argue that such a barrier is entirely appropriate. Take the job application process, for example. First, let me acknowledge that there are issues of inequity for job seekers in some recruitment situations, and my example here isn't to minimise or overlook those challenges, but just to apply broad brushstrokes to a process that happens in every single business. A good job application consisting of a unique cover letter and a customised resume and perhaps some other materials means that there is a barrier to entry in making a passable job application. Many companies have employed ATS or applicant tracking systems on the receiving end of these processes for many years, as the number of people applying for jobs can sometimes be pretty astronomical. But if we think about this, imagine a situation where customizing an application for a specific job and doing so in a way that's designed specifically to game the ATS is a 30-second task on ChatGPT. Suddenly a job seeker might take a process they could have previously done perhaps 4 or 5 times a day, and they can comfortably do it 50 to 100. On its own, this isn't a bad thing, but as soon as it's the norm to do this, on the job seeker side there is no longer any advantage, and potentially a disadvantage for those employing more traditional approaches. And for the business, there's an arms race in trying to filter the 1,000 job applications they are getting for a role that they used to get 100 applications for max. What about online content? There's already a great deal of nonsense out there to sift through, with many major outlets already suffering from what could be described as poor editorial standards, if not outright adoption of AI to create a lot of content that's put out. But in the last few months, I've seen a lot of this trickling down to smaller, more specialised content, and a lot more of it appearing. The other day, I read a blog post that was put out by, for what all appearances should say, was a long-established, successful solution provider on the differences between Office 365 and Microsoft 365. And what was clear was that much of the content had probably been pulled together by AI. To someone who knew very little about the topic, there was nothing wrong with what was written, but for someone working with these products to a deep level every single day, there was a whole bunch of what could only be described as glaring inaccuracies. So the more nonsense that appears, the more challenging research becomes, and universally, the less trusted anything other than the biggest, most verified sources will be. So on one level, an AI-enabled generate text button in the Squarespace page builder, for example, is a wonderful technological innovation. But on another, it's an elimination of an entry barrier that should concern anyone who uses the internet. But what about your team, and what about Microsoft 365 Copilot? Well, the culture that you focus on as you deploy AI tools around your business is a vital consideration. The worst case scenario is that AI-powered generation of content fuels an arms race between team members that measure their contributions on quantity of output and not quality. Do you value the person who was first to reply to the email or the most thoughtful response? If you're the boss and thanks for replying so quickly is a common leader in your communications, you might want to rethink that once these new features are added to Outlook, unless you want to be emailing with GPT-4 rather than your employees. AI tools like Copilot open up the potential for us to achieve more by doing less better. But being successful in deploying that philosophy may well be a challenge in many organisations. Many, if not most employees, are used to being rewarded for producing more, and while some roles have very measurable targets, say in a sales department, for many others it has never been so clear. We also exist in a culture, at least in the US, where being busy is seen as the ideal. So getting 4 hours back to sit and think and ideate while AI tools take care of some of your work might be a difficult pill for some to swallow. Never has there been a technology arriving from over the horizon where the benefits will be driven far more by how we connect people with those tools than by the capabilities of the tools themselves, like we have with the case of AI. We have the opportunity to embrace AI technology as a means to achieve better while doing less and having more balance. Or we have the alternative that is to set a snowball rolling that turns into an avalanche. I'm really optimistic about the benefits emerging AI technologies will bring, particularly to our work lives. But it's incumbent on every organisation to put in place plans to get the best from AI. I truly think this is a big enough issue that corporations should think of this with equivalent importance to issues such as environmental sustainability, and across our society we should apply pressure to all organisations to seek to work with AI in a way that provides distributed good. Microsoft has been talking for the last couple of years about doing more with less. I think we now need to change that conversation to think about achieving better by doing less, by focusing on quality and value enhancement and integrating the benefit of thinking, ideation and creative time into our work rather than just churning out more and more. We need to change how we think about what productivity looks like in our organisations, and we need to challenge the societal drive towards busyness equaling success. In our best future, we can distribute the benefits of AI to everyone, generating more value, giving our teams more balance, and creating more equity in the opportunities we offer to others. In our worst future, we might be buried by the AI avalanche long before we suffer from the AI apocalypse. What do you think? Leave your comments below. I hope this has been of value to you, and I hope to see you back here for the next video. Until then, bye bye.